Well, good afternoon, everyone. I wanted to just take a few moments and go over some of our guidelines for resuming our services. We praise the Lord that we are going to be able to resume our in person physical services starting this Sunday. And boy, I tell you what, I couldn't be more excited about the possibility of having you back in the Lord's house, being able to see one another and talk to one another. Boy, I tell you what, I'm looking forward to it. However, we aren't in the green yet. We're not in the clear. And so there are some restrictions that need to be set in place just to ensure everyone's safety and to make sure that everyone is comfortable in the services, and also to comply with the recommendations that have been made by the Centers for Disease Control and by our state government. And so we've got several things in place that will help us to accomplish these goals. And so I wanted to take just a few moments and go over these things with you. I'm going to go over a list that we have put together. Now, I will let you know that when we mailed our letters and bulletins out, we did include this list there with the letter. So you will have a physical copy of the list that I'm going over. I also posted this list on the church Facebook page and on my personal Facebook page as well. So you can go to either of those locations and find this list. But I thought it might be good just for me to make a video of me talking through the list and, maybe clarify any questions that you might have. And if after watching this video you have any questions, feel free to ask your question there in the comments, or you can send me a private message. You can text me, whatever would work well for you. And we will be happy to answer those questions and consider your concerns and see what we could do to make sure that you are able to return to worship in the Lord's house if you so desire. And so we've got a few things here that I'm going to go over, and we'll try to move through it fairly quickly and not hold you too long, but hopefully this will explain any questions that you might have. The first thing that we are going to do is, because we are permitted to resume services, but we have to resume services at 50% capacity. It's very important that we keep track of how many people are in the building as they arrive. That way we can control and make sure that we do not go over the 50% capacity. And so what we're going to do is we're going to have a welcome tent by the driveway. So as you come up the driveway into the parking lot, as you reach the top of the driveway, just before you come into the parking lot, there will be a welcome tent there. There'll be someone in the tent. One of our ushers, one of our deacons, or a volunteer will be there in the tent. Just pull up to the tent, roll your window down, and say good morning. How are you? Greet them, and then let them know how many people are in your automobile. And then they will jot that down, and they will be able to keep a tally of how many people are arriving. And then after you go by the welcome tent, you're welcome to park anywhere in the parking lot that you desire. You can come in any entrance that you desire. That way, if you need to use the wheelchair ramp or if you need to use the elevator, those entrances will be available. So we just ask that you stop and check in with the welcome tent so that we can keep a tally of how many folks that are here. And of course, that brings up the question of, well, how many folks are allowed to attend, Pastor John? We've made a note about our total capacity. Our building, in the auditorium, we can seat 275 people in our auditorium. And then we also have our fellowship hall and our teen room. And so what we have done is that we have marked off every other pew in the auditorium as to be left open. So every other pew in the auditorium will be left open. We'll only be seating in every other one. And then the chairs along the walls will only be using every third chair. With that in mind, that will allow us to seat about 100 people in the auditorium. So we can seat about 100 people in the auditorium. Will be below the 50%, but by taking it even lower, because a true 50% of our actual seating would be 137 seats. But we want to make also accommodations for folks to be able to practice social distancing. And so we'll be putting about 100 people in our auditorium. After we reach 100 people in the auditorium, we will be directing folks downstairs to the fellowship hall. We have 40 seats in the fellowship hall. They are spaced out 6 foot apart in each direction so that there is plenty of space there in the fellowship hall. And then we will be live streaming the upstairs service on the TVs downstairs. So you will not be able to participate. If you're in the fellowship hall, you'll not be able to actually see me in person preaching, but you'll probably still be able to hear me. And you'll be able to watch the service there on the TVs and be able to fellowship with your brothers and sisters in Christ. If the fellowship hall fills up, we also have 15 seats in the teen room, and we are also set up to stream the service on those TVs there. So all total, we have seating for 155 people within the building. That puts us well below the 50% requirement and provides adequate spacing that we can maintain social distancing. And so that is our total capacity. Before the COVID began, we were averaging between 160, 175 people were attending church. I know that there will be several folks who will prefer to stay home because either they are high risk or they're just wanting to take some extra precautions, and we definitely understand if anyone is just concerned and wants to take extra precautions and continue worshiping from home for a while. We definitely understand that. And I know that there are several members who will choose to go this route. And so I believe that we will have no problem to be able to provide seating for anyone who would want to attend. And so do plan on coming. If you want to come, you come. I'm sure that there will be plenty of room for you here in the services. Another thing that we have made note of, which is of course a concern and something that we want to be very diligent about, is our sanitation and how we will handle sanitation during and between the services. And so a couple of things that we have made note of here. In order to maintain a clean environment, one thing that we will be doing is the church will be sanitized before and after each service. So you can rest assured when you come to worship, the sanctuary, the fellowship hall, the restrooms, the facilities in the restrooms, the door handles, everything will have been sanitized. It will have been wiped down since the previous service. So you don't have to worry about being able to pass germs one to another, because we will be sanitizing all areas where people will be in between every service. So that is one thing that we'll be doing. Another thing that we'll be doing in order to keep from spreading germs from one to another was we will not have bulletins here at the church, and so we won't be there won't be someone at the door handing out bulletins. That's for a couple reasons. One is whenever there's someone there at the door greeting you and he is handing you a bulletin, you're in close proximity, and of course he's touched the bulletin, now you've touched the bulletin, and so we will not have bulletins here at the church. We won't have a door greeter standing there passing them out. Now there may be someone in the foyer who is standing back a safe distance from the door in order to answer any questions that you may have. But there will not be somebody there standing there shaking your hand, handing you the bulletin. But instead, we will continue to mail the bulletins out, so you will continue to receive your bulletins in the mail so that you can continue to stay in touch that way. Also, we have removed all the hymn books from the pews. A couple of reasons. One is, the touching and getting them in and out, different people touching them. So if we're going to sanitize everything that's been touched, then we would have to wipe down every hymn book, every service. And so just to make a cleaner environment, plus cut down a little bit on the workload of sanitizing between services, we have pulled all of the hymn books out of the pews, and we will be putting all of our lyrics up on the projection screens so that you'll be able to see the words to the songs and sing along that away. And of course, once this passes, we will definitely be bringing the hymn books back. But for now, we have pulled the hymn books out to help just with this area of sanitation. Also, whenever you arrive, all of our entry doors will be propped open. So we will have our all the main entry and exit doors will be propped open so that you will not have to touch the door handles. So you'll be able to walk straight in, and then once the service begins, we will have the the ushers will close the doors, and then when the service ends, we will have the ushers reopen the doors so that you do not have to touch the door handle. So you'll be able to walk in and walk out freely without any need to touch a door handle or open a door. Another thing is inside every entrance is we will have a table set up, and we will have hand sanitizer on those tables. It is not required that you sanitize, but it will be there for your availability. So when you arrive, you could just sanitize real good as you come into the building or as you leave. You are welcome to sanitize as you leave, whatever makes you the most comfortable, but we will have those sanitation stations at each entrance for your convenience, and so that'll help also. Another thing that we will do is at the restrooms, right near the water fountain, over top the water fountain, right next to the water fountain, at the restrooms, is we will have a paper towel dispenser. And what you will be able to do is, if you would like, you can pull a paper towel before entering the restroom, because we're not able to leave those doors propped open, of course. And so you'll be able to pull a paper towel and use that paper towel to enter the restroom. That way you won't have to touch the door handles. You can use that paper towel on the sink fixtures or whatever. So we will have those paper towels made available to you just to give a barrier for you as you enter and exit the restrooms. Also, just to further ensure safety, we will close the water fountains and the coffee stations. I know that's going to be tough on us, because, I mean, I look forward to my Sunday morning coffee here at the church, but I guess we'll just have to drink an extra cup at home. But anyway, we will be closing the water fountains and closing the coffee stations just to eliminate the tendency to congregate in those areas, and also eliminate the potential spread of germs from multiple people being involved. And so that we will be closing the water fountains and the coffee stations. Another thing that we need to address is our children's services. And so the deacons and I have talked much about our children's services and how we want to address our children's services. And so what we have decided is, at least for the time being, now we may change our minds later, but at least for the time being, we have decided that nursery, Sunday school, children's church, and CG3 will be suspended. So we will not have any of these. None of these will be open during this time, or they will not be staffed. We will have the nursery facility will be available if a young mother or a mother needs to take her young child into the nursery. That will be available, and you will be welcome to take your child to the nursery, but there will be no staff in the nursery. It'll just be a room where you can take your child and go. All the Sunday school rooms will be closed. We will not be using those. Now, hopefully, we will be able to resume our children's services in the future, but as of now, our plan for now is that we will not be resuming children's services until we see the guidelines that the public school system will be using when they resume opening school, because we want to be able to make sure that parents are comfortable and know that their children are safe. And so as of now, we will not be opening our children's services back up. Another thing is our van routes, and we definitely value each person who comes to church by means of one of our vans, and we love and appreciate you, but because it's pretty much impossible to practice social distancing in the vans, we will not be running the vans at this time. Now, hopefully we'll be able to start them back up soon, but as of now, we will not be running any of our vans. And then when we look at all these things, it seems like there's a lot that's been put in place. There's a lot that we're trying to accomplish. But in this, there is also some individual responsibility for you. There is only so much that we can do. We've marked the pews that aren't to be used. We've put signs up to remind you to practice social distancing. We've put out the sanitation stations. You know, we're doing all that we can to ensure your safety. But to some degree, some of your safety is going to fall upon yourself. And so I have a few things here that I'm going to ask that each of you be responsible for personally. And so a few of those things are, first of all, no physical contact. I know that we really want to shake each other's hands. We really want to hug each other's neck. We really want to be close to one another again. But we are going to ask for the time being that there be no physical contact. So just refrain yourself and stay back. And so no physical contact other than between family members. And so if it's immediate family, of course, you can sit together. You can sit close to one another. You can have physical contact with your immediate family. But outside of that, we ask that you refrain from any physical contact. Another thing that we ask is that if you're currently sick, if you're running a fever, if you have something more than just a normal cough, then we ask that you please stay home. We ask if there's any a thing that you are currently sick, you're currently ill, it's a possibility that you may have something contagious. We just ask that if you would please remain home to help us keep a safe environment for everyone else. Also, if you're high risk, you have a health condition, maybe you are elderly or whatever it is, you are in a high risk bracket. We ask that you remain home. We want to do our best to keep you safe, and so we will be continuing to live stream all of our services by all the means that we have used so far. We will still be on Facebook, we'll still be on YouTube, we'll still be on our church webpage, we'll still be on the toll-free number. And so if you are high risk, or if you are in a category to where you would be more likely to be vulnerable to catching something, we ask that if you would just please stay home and continue to worship from there. Hopefully in the near future you'll be able to resume and join with us, but for now we're just asking if you would to please stay home and worship via the live stream. Another thing that's going to fall on you that we're going to ask is that there be no loitering, no hanging out in the hallways, no hanging out in the foyers, no standing around in groups talking. What we ask is that you arrive here at the service, come into the church, go to your seat, and be seated, and just try to eliminate any loitering or gathering in groups. And that way, that'll just help us better protect and maintain the social distancing. Another thing that we'll ask is that parents don't allow their children to roam freely through the building. So don't allow your children to roam around. Keep them with you. Keep them there in the seat. If they need to go to the restroom, if they're younger children, if you could accompany them. If they're older children, instruct them to go straight there and straight back. And just keep the children from roaming through the building. Matter of fact, we have all the Sunday school doors closed. We have the kitchen doors downstairs closed. Any area that's not being used, we have closed them all. And we ask if you would, for yourself and to let your children know as well, to just stay out of those rooms. And that way we will not have to go in and sanitize those rooms after each service. We'll just keep them closed off and inaccessible. So we ask that you relay that to your children, keep them close to you, so that it reduces the workload on those who are helping to sanitize the building. Then also the last thing here that would be your personal responsibility is to maintain appropriate distances in the parking lot, when you're entering the building, when you're using the restroom. There's only so much that we can mark off. There's only so many barriers that we can put up, so many places that we can intervene. And so we're asking if you would to just take some personal responsibility and respect others and maintain that space there in the parking lot as you enter the building. If you're in the restroom, be conscious of others and make sure that you maintain a safe social distance. I know that many of these things seem inconvenient, and I know that many of us would love to just go back to normal worship, back to normal, but I do believe that God is pleased when we are responsible. And I just think that our focus ought not to be on what we can't do, but our focus ought to be on what we can do. And boy, I tell you what, I'm praising the Lord that we will be able to meet back in His house. We'll be able to worship Him and serve Him. And so I hope that this list of things is a help to you. As I said, if you have any questions or concerns, put them there in the comments or feel free to text or call me, and we will address those and do our best to make sure that you are comfortable returning to the Lord's house. I look forward to seeing you on Sunday. I hope you enjoy the rest of your week. We'll talk to you later. Bye-bye.